Hello and welcome back to the Karma Stories podcast. I'm Rob and I hope you are having a wonderful day today. Today I have 3 stories for you from the Malicious Compliance subreddit. The Karma Stories podcast is published to all major podcasting platforms, and you can also read along on YouTube under our @Karma Stories podcast handle. Alright, on to today's stories, let's jump right in. This story comes to us from HeavyAd9344. Teacher wouldn't listen, so the entire class complied, and he got fired. This happened in the early 2000s in my junior year of high school. The district had just built the 3rd high school in our city, and most of the teachers were new. The band director was one of those new hires. He was qualified for the job, but had 0 people skills, and was extremely abrasive towards students. He had previously taught university, and could not wrap his head around the fact that high school students are not college-level music majors who live in practice rooms and write symphonies in their sleep. His normal behavior consisted of berating students for not knowing university-level curriculum, talking down to everyone about how he can't understand why they were so incompetent, and stopping rehearsals to go on long tangents about things that had nothing to do with music. Every day, at least 2 to 3 students would leave class in tears. We complained to the higher-ups, and they repeatedly brushed us off. He made students hate attending his music classes, and many dropped band and orchestra as a result. One of the classes he taught was supposed to be Intro to Music Theory. For those who don't know music, this would be a class that should typically teach things like different types of chords, the definition of music symbols, the logic behind key changes, etc. At the first class of the year, there were about 25 kids enrolled. Most of these were music and drama kids who wanted to be teachers or performers in the arts one day. On the first day, he handed us a quiz because he wanted to see how much we knew. I think there were maybe 3 to 5 kids who were able to attempt a single question on the quiz. Not one got a single answer right. That's how advanced it was. Imagine signing up for what you think is a basic pre-algebra class and walking into advanced calculus. This teacher spent the entire class period berating us for not being prepared when no one could even attempt his quiz. We told him, "This is an intro class. None of us have learned anything like this before." And his response was, "Really? I thought this was an advanced class." The next class period, there were maybe 15 kids enrolled. He did the same thing, asked us to perform something we can't even understand, and then berated us for not being prepared. At every class, he would say, "I thought you all were musicians. This is supposed to be an advanced class." By the end of the second week, there were 6 students left enrolled in this class, including myself. He softened up slightly to those of us who stayed, and seemed to think we were his prize students, and that this was his class of elites. Think Professor Slughorn from Harry Potter. In truth, we all thought he was insane and cruel, but the 6 of us had sufficient music background and experience to understand a fraction of his lessons. Without the bell curve, we all would have failed his class. A few months go by, and we are at the end of the first semester. By now, every student connected to music in the school hated this guy, and repeated complaints had done nothing to fix the problem. The admins filed away every complaint, but never did anything more than remind him that he's supposed to be more kind to students. He changes nothing, and still berates students and makes them cry. So when it comes to the final exam for his theory class, he decides that he wants to give it to us early, so that on the day the final is supposed to be scheduled, we can have a class party instead. Of the 6 of us left, 4 of us have the same period after his class together as well. That class was AP English, and we were prepping for the AP test. We had no problem with a class party and music right before the AP prep exam, so we didn't complain. The day comes of our music final exam, and after we finish the test, he tells us that for our class party, he wants to take us all to breakfast at a new IHOP that opened 20 minutes away. His class was first period. We try to tell him all the issues with this plan. We aren't allowed to leave campus without permission slips. It was a closed campus policy due to an incident where a student who left campus for lunch got hit by a car, and was unalived. We will not get back in time for second period, which was a final exam. He doesn't have permission to remove us from the campus. What if there's an emergency and we are unaccounted for because we aren't even at the school? His solution was to tell us that after the start of class on our final class day, he would be going to IHOP, and if we wanted to join him, that was our choice. But if we didn't, we would have to stay in the classroom and not bring attention to the fact that there was no class and no teacher. Without talking about it to each other, the 6 of us saw an opportunity to finally get the admin's attention to the complete disregard this teacher had for rules and policies. We made sure to inform our English teacher that we might be late to class on the day of the final due to a class field trip for music theory. She was irritated and reminded us that this final was very important and that she would not give us extra time if we came in late. We told her that we understood and gave her details about where we would be and what we would be doing and who we would be with. She said she still expected us to be in her class. On the day of the final, we all went to IHOP. It took forever to get there because of construction and forever to get our food because the restaurant was newly opened and had a large number of customers. We got back to the school halfway through our second period class. The admins were waiting for us. Security was waiting for us. My English teacher had called the front office to complain that 4 of her best students were missing and that she was fairly certain we weren't even on campus. The admins had checked attendance and seen that we were all marked present that morning, and they had searched the entire school looking for our class. The 4 of us walked into our English final to a livid teacher. We knew she was pissed at us, but couldn't punish us beyond saying we had the same remaining time as the rest of the class, since we had been with a teacher in our absence. None of us did as well in the final as we could have if we had the full 87 minutes, but we were doing well enough in the class already that the lesser marks didn't affect our overall grade too much. The band teacher had a private reprimand that was so loud the entire school could hear it. He was confused as to why the administration was upset that he took minor children off campus without permission or notice, without proper school transportation, or even a good reason. He stayed with his usual attitude, but this time toward the admins. Why are you guys so incompetent about this? They are old enough to drive. What's the problem? The English teacher, who I actually adore and was one of the best teachers I've ever had, absolutely went mama bear on the administration about how could they continue to employ someone who disrespects the other teachers so much as to deprive his students of their final exams and put them in potentially dangerous circumstances. He told us to drive ourselves to the restaurant, and any accidents or medical issues would have been the school's fault. He was fired later that day. Many of the students had a gleeful but confused reaction since the 6 of us weren't talking to anyone about it. All most people knew was that this tyrant of a teacher was gone. We didn't spread the story very much of how it happened because we still feared being reprimanded for our involvement, since he technically gave us a choice to go with him or stay. But I always smiled when people gossiped about what the final straw was that got him fired. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, we have one from a user called EHP42. It says, I think there's an issue where some teachers decide that their education level determines the baseline of their teaching, or they teach at the level they wish they could and not the actual level of the course, which is truly insane. One of the best teachers I ever had was my physics teacher. He had a PhD and spent summers doing research at CERN, but he knew how to teach the material at our level. He also tied in the most cutting-edge advances in the field, which he explained at our level. I think in OP's case, some people just aren't meant to be teachers. Okay, granted we don't know all the details, but one thing I was thinking during this story is, this guy is qualified to teach at a university level, but he's teaching in a high school. Why is that? Do you think he might have gotten fired from the college? Maybe he was so bitter that he wasn't able to teach at the college level anymore that he just figured he'd keep doing it anyway, regardless of what he was supposed to be doing. Those of you reading along on YouTube, let me know what you think on this story by commenting down below. This story comes to us from Wooden Ladder 5851. Finance department at work held firm on max per day for meals while traveling. They messed up with and denied me reimbursement for $30. Ended up costing them $750. Many years ago, during a corporate merger, I was responsible for transitioning a portion of business operations to a distant city. I was there for 4 weeks in an extended stay suite hotel with fridge and microwave. I had a meal allowance of $50 a day and was required to submit a weekly expense report with receipts for reimbursement. After a long day, all I wanted was to get comfy, chill out, and fix something in the room to eat. On day 1, I shopped at the local market spending $80, and day 4, $20. I submitted my weekly receipts for a total of $100 and was told I had exceeded the daily limit and my reimbursement would be $70 versus $100. Finance insisted that $50 a day in receipts is max they would pay, even as I pointed out that the total was less than a third of what I could have submitted. They stood firm and refused to budge from the daily max. At the time, my most favorite coffee beans were only available for purchase in coffee shops located in select areas of the country. As luck would have it, there was one close by. The name included cafe, as they also sold sandwiches, etc., and the receipt was not itemized. Yep, you guessed it, the last 3 weeks, I bought bags of coffee beans every single day. In their effort to short me $30, it ended costing them $750. Classic example of a company being penny wise and pound foolish, and jerking employees around. In spite of incredibly attractive financial offers to relocate and remain with the company, I resigned once the transition was complete. Shortly thereafter, I ended up in my dream job for the next 25 years. My position was a new one and just beginning to emerge within the industry. As such, I had tremendous leeway in defining the role and budget. I was respected, my work was valued, and my professionalism and judgment were trusted. I've always been that way. You want to question and nickel and dime me over nonsense, I will respond likewise. If I receive respect and trust, I will have your back and will darn near hurt myself delivering the best I have to offer. I'll adjust my schedule, burn the midnight oil, whatever it takes. All because I know that once we get through it, I'll take some time for myself, and no one will question my schedule or work ethic. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, there's one from a user called ShadowDragon8685. It says, there was a time when a per diem was, you're going to be gone for 2 weeks? Okay. Your per diem is $50 a day. Here's $700 cash. If you eat cheap, you can pocket the rest. If you blow through it by day 3, you're gonna have to figure something out. Good luck. There's not much more to say on this one besides I completely agree with what OP did, and I would have spent right up to my maximum every single day going forward on every trip they ever sent me on. The bean counters at that company really like to micromanage, and it's just a horrible way of doing things. This story comes to us from Chocolate Bourbon. Bitch at me about per diem receipts, and I don't need receipts for under $25? Challenge accepted. The previous post made me remember my time at a company about 15 years ago. Per diem food was $15 for breakfast, $25 for lunch, $50 for dinner. We were told to buy the food with your company card and submit photos of the receipts using your phone. One day, I spent $35 on dinner, and the photo of the receipt was a little fuzzy. By the time I noticed it, when I went through the photos and assigned them to meals, I had lost the paper copy. So I got reprimanded by our VP. All photos must be clear and easy to read. He also confirmed that meals under $25 didn't need receipts. Alrighty. Before I got that email, I had thought over our per diem policy and its potential loopholes. That was the day I decided to begin exploiting it. Challenge accepted, and malicious compliance begins. I have very simple tastes. Give me a flip-top can of chili and a plastic spoon, and I'm fine. Plus, that way, I can just go back to the hotel and rest. I don't have to spend the time at a restaurant or hit a drive-thru on the way back. So about $10 a day is plenty. But the company was offering $90 and receipts were only required for transactions over $25. So the first day of travel, I'd go to Walmart or Costco and get my food for the week. I'd do 3 separate transactions, one for $15, one for $25, and another for $25. That took care of my food for the week. I always went as cheap as possible, since any extra money I spent on food was money I couldn't spend on something else. Then I'd spend the rest of my travel days buying whatever I wanted, never spending more than $25 per transaction. Costco and Walmart were ideal. They offered cheap food I liked, and also all sorts of other things. I knew I couldn't be greedy. If every day I came right up to the max of each meal per Diem, but not over, and never submitted receipts, that would seem strange. So I'd ensure to bucket them into only 1 or 2 transactions per day. I did this for years, as long as each receipt added up to less than $25, and I only had 1 or 2 allocated to lunch and dinner. No one cared for a while. Then there was an outage for an airline where I had to stay an extra week on site. I had no clean clothes, so I went and bought some clothing at Walmart, more or less as I had done before. I had a new boss and new VP by then. My new boss noticed and freaked out. He and I spent hours on the phone together trying to slot each receipt into some acceptable category. It was hopeless though. It was impossible to disguise those Walmart purchases by mixing them in with all my other Walmart purchases. No matter how much canned chili you eat, it's still canned chili. So I sent in my expense report in all its Walmart glory. My boss made it sound like someone would roll up to my desk with a siren on their head, but nothing came of it. I laid low for a few months after that and ate some really nice expensive meals. Then my boss got transferred. I got a new boss who had no knowledge of this history, so I went back to my old ways. Over time, I bought kitchen towels, bath towels, water bottles, sippy cups for my kids, stuffed animals for my kids, books, tools, glasses, pants, shirts, jackets, a toaster, walkie-talkies for my kids, headphones, etc., etc. And I probably saved the company a couple $100 each trip. I always came for just under a week, so it was a win-win. Thank you for the large-ass old company, and you're welcome for my thriftiness. The money I saved you went right to the bottom line. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, there's one from a user called JustSomeGuy56. It says, the whole point of per diem is so neither the employees or the company has to process a bunch of claims for meals. When I was traveling a lot, I always spent a lot less than the per diem, so I made money. But I guess there are companies that will happily spend $1 to make sure an employee isn't cheating them out of a dime. I would say that OP missed an opportunity here. They were just buying small things every day. If they wanted to get something bigger, they could have just loaded up on $25 gift cards. Then if they wanted to buy something like a big screen TV, they could just take in all those $25 gift cards and pay for it in one shot. If you enjoy daily Reddit stories, I encourage you to follow and add us to your favorites on whichever podcasting platform you enjoy the most. And if you're watching on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button and drop a like on the video. It really helps us out. I thank you for watching and listening. I hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you tomorrow.